Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and welcome back to my review for chapter 235 of Tokyo Revengers. If you guys are new around here and want to keep up to date with the latest Tokyo Revengers reviews and just other anime content in general, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and also be sure to leave a like on the video, as it really helps out with the algorithm and pushes my stuff to a bunch of new amazing people. But anyway, enough of that, let's get into this chapter. So obviously this week starts out with Takemichi still in the hospital after he's been, completely and utterly obliterated by Mikey in those previous chapters beforehand. And we have like all of those original schoolmates that Takemichi met, or like we met earlier on in the series, around Takemichi, making sure that he is alright, bringing him things and just like making sure that he's recovering alright in hospital. And we find out that like Takemichi has also been in hospital for at least 3 weeks now, which is kind of funny since it's been 3 weeks since the end of the Three Deities incident with 3 deities. So I don't know if there's this thing with threes popping up throughout this arc, I guess, so far. That could just be something that I've noticed now while going through this review here. But yeah, a lot of threes, which is quite weird. But this all starts out with all the original guys kind of around Takemichi's bed, making sure that he's alright. And it leads on with them actually leaving the room, and Takemichi kind of talking to Hina for a little bit while she stays behind before she ends up leaving as well. Before she leaves, she notices that something's like kind of wrong with Takemichi, and she hints at him and like kind of asks him what it could possibly be, but he doesn't end up replying to her, and he tells her that it's nothing, and she ends up heading off. And later, after she heads off, you see Takemichi still sitting on the bed, and he's kind of muttering to himself as a whole bunch of the other guys from the original Tomen actually come into the room and finally see Takemichi for the first time since the very beginning of this arc now as well. I think it's the first time since we've seen them since the beginning of this arc as well. So it's quite interesting to see all these characters finally recollecting back at the hospital with Takemichi here since the very beginning of this arc. And a little bit more confirmation goes to the fact that Takemichi isn't probably going to involve the other guys in his new quest, I guess, to try and save Mikey, as that's pretty much, his goal right now, or right here, is to save Mikey and change this current future. And all of the guys that are actually there with Takemichi, while they're there and before he kind of comes to that realization, or like tells them that he's going to do everything by himself, they actually tell him that they realize that Takemichi has been doing this all by himself, like trying to save Draken or trying to get Mikey back from the kind of state that he's in. And they say to him that, their hand, or like they can always ask them for a hand if they need anything. If they need anything, they can always count on them to, like help him out, which is something that has always been there throughout this arc, but it just has not felt exactly right, because it's felt like they've had their own life in the future. But now that they've kind of added this little bit in here, there's a possibility that Takemichi knows that if he just asks them, they will help, and they're willing to do that. Now he knows that they could possibly later come into the story, or at least that's kind of what I'm seeing in some kind of way here, that it's giving Takemichi that opportunity as well. But obviously after they leave, Takemichi realizes, like they've helped him heaps so far up until this point in the story, or up until like the start of the Three Deities arc here, but they can't really help him anymore because Takemichi still isn't willing to, like jeopardize their futures. And as he says that, like he's going to protect everyone on his own, which is something that he's just reiterated throughout this arc since the very beginning of it as well, Hina actually walks back into the room after her little like shopping trip that she'd been on, and tells Takemichi that they'd been in here like consistently all the time, like making sure that Takemichi was alright since they realized, what had happened to him. And she tells him that like they're obviously really worried about him, and that he has like amazing friends that he should pretty much cherish and look after, which is just reinforcing that idea that Takemichi does not want to lose these other friends that he has here. And Takemichi tells Hina that it's like his selfish self that got these people involved when he came back, and he doesn't want to do that anymore, and he's decided that he is going to do and settle everything by himself. But obviously Hina kind of doesn't exactly believe Takemichi, and like as Takemichi tells Hina that she can go home, Hina kind of looks at Takemichi and says his name, like Takemichi, and he's like, I'll be fine, obviously referring to the fact that he's trying to do everything himself. And Hina just hugs him and tells him that he's lying, which is something that is quite obvious for the fact that Takemichi really doesn't know what to do at this point in the story. He's kind of stun locked, is a good way to put it. He does not really know where to go from here. He's just lost his kind of one stone that he had to help him try and bring Mikey back from the brink of darkness that he was at. So you're like, where does he go from this point? And he's he really is just lying to Hina at this point, and she kind of knows it. And in this like beautiful double panel, she tells Takemichi to just cry it all out, as, you know, like, that's something that's extremely hard for Takemichi to actually do, which is quite surprising, the fact that Takemichi seems to be crying every other chapter or every other like fight that he's in. He's always bawling his eyes out, and he's got the little like nickname or moniker as the crybaby hero. So the fact that Hina is telling him to cry it out, which is something that's hard for him apparently, is quite different. So I'm wondering what has happened over these past 2 years. I wonder if Takemichi's personality has changed, or the one that Hina knows has changed exactly, because he was known as the crybaby hero. How is this something that he's found hard to do? You know, like, he usually always cries things out. That's him. But I don't know, maybe he's finding this a bit differently. And obviously, you know, like, while Takemichi is there with Hina, he ends up like absolutely bawling his eyes out while she's holding his head. And in this like final panel of the entire chapter, we actually get like Hina telling Takemichi that when he's in pain, he just needs to cry, which I think is a little bit of a foreshadowing to actually what Mikey really needs to actually do. He, like, if you noticed, he's just this like completely different person. This like, when Emma died, he was emotionless, and he didn't really, you know, like, break down initially like straight away. And he hasn't here either. He really needs to just cry and cry it out, kind of like right now with what Takemichi is doing. You know, when he's in pain, he needs to cry. And I'm wondering if that there is a possible foreshadowing to something else that could happen throughout the later part of the arc. Obviously, there's the fact that there is actually that whole idea now that Takemichi could create his own gang called the Tokyo Avengers, which could consist of everyone from Toman in the past and everyone who wants to try and save Mikey, and or at least, you know, like, bring him back to who he used to be and try and, you know, like, make him realize that the life he has chosen isn't the right path to follow, even though it might be a bit too late for that in some aspects, and Takemichi might have to do something that involves possibly changing everything to start with, which I honestly don't believe is going to happen exactly at this point, but there is still that kind of like possibility there. But yeah, honestly, I think it's nice to actually finally see Hina back in the story for the first time in, I think, over about 15 chapters now. We haven't really seen, you know, really anyone else apart from Takemichi and these new characters that we've been introduced to. So it's great to finally see a bunch of these old characters finally coming back into the story and letting us know that they're actually still a part of it. They are still here, and they do still have something to do with the story. They're not exactly all completely gone yet. So there is still that huge possibility that all these guys can still be a part of this arc here, even though it's still highly unlikely, or I think it's still highly unlikely, Takemichi, in my head, is going to create this Tokyo Avengers gang, or at least it's cringily or like cheesily enough ending out in that exact way that Takemichi is going to create the gang Tokyo Avengers to take down Mikey. And at least that's, you know, kind of how I'm seeing it exactly. But yeah, I'd love to know what all you guys think down in the comment section below. So obviously let me know what you guys thought about this chapter down in the comment section below. As honestly, it felt a little bit shorter this week, but in actuality, it was a little bit longer. We had a few more pages than normal. We did get that amazing like color spread for Christmas, obviously. So Merry Christmas to everyone. I think it's like the 21st over in the US now. So Christmas will be in 4 or 5 days for everyone around the world, I'm pretty sure. 4 or 3 days, I don't know. It's 3 days for me now, so yeah, pretty sure about 4 days for everyone around the world. So, you know, Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you for like the amazing year that this channel has absolutely had. I can't thank you all enough for it so far. I absolutely love like Tokyo Avengers and where the story has gone, and can't wait to see where it goes next year. So as I said, I'd love to know what you guys all think down in the comment section below, so make sure you do chuck a comment down there. And if you are new around here and want to keep up to date with the latest Tokyo Avengers reviews and just other anime content in general, like massive explained videos for like Demon Slayer or even other anime series perhaps in the future that I haven't gone over yet, then, you know, like, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and also be sure to leave a like, as it really helps out with pushing my stuff to a bunch of new people and that silly old YouTube algorithm. But anyway, enough of that. For now, it's been your professional degenerate, Diavolo, and I'll see you all in a bit. Bye.